Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it. Greetings, Algo Artisans. It's Cowboy, aka Nick here. It is Monday, September the 8th, and we have a big week coming up, some heavy data. Before we get into it, get your free algo link is in the description. Just go in there, click the link, give us a real name, fake name. We don't care. We'll send you the algo immediately. Now, we're going to take a look at the usual suspects this week. We're going to look at NASDAQ, USDJPY, BTC USD, that's Bitcoin, EURUSD, AUDUSD, GBPJPY, and gold. And we're going to take a look at the economic data that's coming out this week. There are only 2 data points that matter, and that's PPI and CPI, but we'll go ahead and go through all of them. Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. is the PPI. That's pretty much the next relevant data. If this comes out cool, if inflation looks a little bit lower, then the market might expect a surprise cut of maybe 50 basis points next week, which would send markets pretty high most likely, okay? So we got to watch out for that. 7:15 on Wednesday, we have some New Zealand data coming out. Governor Hawkesby speaks. Who knows what he's going to say, but that could push that around. We have the European version of the FOMC, their bank main financing rate and monetary policy statement. So if you are trading the euro, 8:15 a.m. on Thursday could be pretty wild. And yet again, 15 minutes later is the CPI, which is probably the biggest event of the week, as well as USD unemployment claims. So CPI month over month and year over year. If either of these or any of these come out very cool, again, that could send markets up really high. Now, if these come out really hot, which is really unexpected, then that could actually send the markets pretty low, and the same goes for PPI. So just understand that. And then at 7:45 a.m., we have the ECB press conference where that could push the euro around. Friday, we have at the European Open the British GDP month over month, and then we have the USD consumer sentiment and inflation expectations data coming out. That's at 10 a.m. on Friday to add a little bit of volatility to your Friday for your trading pleasure. Let's take a look at the charts, and we'll start with the NASDAQ. Now, you'll notice as I go through these charts, we have these blue arrows, and I'm left that on this week. I don't normally do this, but just to show you how these can go, how these can be pretty accurate, and the way that I do my predictions, they're not precise, they're more of a general idea of what's going to happen. The precision comes in trading, and that's different than these forecasts. But this is a pretty accurate forecast here, so you can see how that's going. And of course, we have in yellow this week's forecast. I have it cut off at the PPI. Now, anything can happen with the CPI and PPI. I expect the CPI to have a stronger effect in the markets, but it may not happen. I do expect things with the NASDAQ to go up and to the right up until the announcement on Wednesday morning. Things usually calm down before the data, so you might see a little volatility and then it calms down. We might see prices break all-time high, but I don't think it's going to happen just based on what I'm seeing in the algos. It could happen, but I think we're just going to see a crawl up towards the all-time high. And then maybe once the data comes out on Wednesday, we see a push above, maybe not. We'll see about what the PPI says. I think with the CPI, we'll see something powerful. Now, I could be totally wrong about this, and I don't normally predict these news events, and I certainly don't trade based on those predictions, right? So the way I treat this is I predict what is foreseeable based on the algos. Now, once you get to big data like this, I don't predict beyond that. It's just going to be what it is, and I'm just kind of talking about what could happen, and I do have a suspicion that we're going to see weak data push markets up, but that's just a suspicion. I'm not trading based on that until the time comes. Let's take a look at USDJPY. Now, the algos are rather bearish. You can see last week's flip. You can see how this got bearish a bit right here. And the thing about the JPY is that it is a bit of a place where money goes when the stock market is going to not do so well, which is really interesting because this is headed down, right? However, the dollar is starting to look a lot weaker. So this is why this chart is a little hard to predict coming into the CPI. So I'm not even going to talk about what happens after these 2 events. I could just tell you that it looks like price is going to head down. In the meantime, we could get a bounce around this area. It may not completely head down like I drew. The low here where there is very strong support is sitting at 146.53. So I probably wouldn't short below that level. You know, I certainly wouldn't short into that support, but I do expect down for the moment, and then we'll see what happens with PPI, CPI. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is pretty stable right now. You can see last week's prediction here, pretty accurate. It was dead nuts on for about a day. I predicted that pop up, and it happened a little later than I thought, and then it just kind of fizzled out right as the week ended. So I did a pretty good prediction there, just a little bit off schedule. Now, I do think that Bitcoin is going to remain stable. I don't think it's going to go below 109,930. It may get above this 113,440, this high right here, this blue line that I'm about to point out. It could get above here. here. That's possible, but I don't think it's going to go below 109.90. Now, it couldn't do anything. It's Bitcoin, but I think the market's going to calm down until PPI. After that, who knows what's going to happen. Again, I think it'll be weak data. I think prices will go up on just about everything against the dollar, but I don't trade that, so I'm not going to leave that on. I just think that's what's going to happen. Let's take a look at the euro. Looks like the euro is going to go for another high. We talked about this before. If I were to zoom out, you'll see that the euro itself has just been up and up since the beginning of the year. And I think that that's going to continue. You can see last week's prediction. It was pretty much correct. Bounced off the bottom here, made its way up to the top here and bounced. And then after the end of the week, it continued up. So this is a pretty darn accurate prediction, albeit my low was a little bit lower than it should have been, right? And I do expect up and to the right, but this is pretty powerful right now. I would not be surprised to see the euro break this high going back to July before the CPI PPI. I wouldn't be surprised. Not saying it's going to happen. It could simply stay below that until then, and then who knows what happens once the data comes out, right? The data can just change everything. But again, I do think that the data will be weak, whether it's the PPI or whether it's the CPI. I think it'll go up on both, if not one of these. And I think the main one is the CPI. So we'll see how that goes. Not going to trade it like that. Just going to see how it happens and trade it afterwards. Let's take a look at the Aussie. Now, this was the prediction that I didn't quite get last week. And hey, you know what? 6 out of 7 ain't bad, right? So I expected sideways and down, and we got just sideways. And it looks like that dollar really started to get weak right partway through the week, right about the 2nd of September. That's when the dollar started to get weak, and that's when markets really kicked back in as well, by the way. The holiday was over. People started to get back to work. All the people traveling in the summer started to clear off their desks. And that's when the JPY started to take over the dollar. It was right around that same time. So there was a bit of a change in the dollar right there. And I get the feeling everybody got the word what's going to happen with the CPI and with the FOMC. Now, I could be wrong about that, but what I'm going to do is rely on the charts, and I think this will grind up just like the EUR. It may break this local high of this 66.264. We're going to see if it does or not, right? If not, I think the CPI PPI will have the similar effect that we've been talking about, whether it's up with PPI, hard up with CPI, or who knows what with PPI. PPI could do either way. It could be a head fake. We'll have to see how that goes. But that's just a suspicion. Not going to trade it, not going to worry about it until it comes, right? Let's take a look at the beast, GBPJPY. Not expecting a ton out of this. This has been sideways for quite a while. So if the Japanese yen does get stronger, this is going to pull down, but the British pound has been relatively strong as well. These two have been in a range going back to August. I don't expect that to change this week. Now, who knows what the CPI and PPI will do? I did uncharacteristically make a 2-week prediction last week as to the beast. I don't know why I did that, but that's what I did. And I think we're just going to see more sideways. So I'm going to leave the prediction just as it is. Let's take a look at gold. Gold's just bullish. It's taken a minor pullback after breaking the all-time highs, and it just keeps breaking the highs. It broke 3,600 here, pulled back, barely touched the prior high on this pullback, touched this high, and then just rocketed up. Now, is it going to come back down and touch 3,600 eventually? Maybe, but I don't know that's going to happen right away, especially with the news coming out this week. Gold is inversely correlative to the dollar. If the CPI and PPI were to be weak data, then I would expect gold to continue up. Again, PPI is probably going to head up, but could be a head fake. If the CPI is weak, like I think it will be, then gold will head up. I have a potential high here at about 3,700, but that would be a massive move in a week. I don't expect that kind of move in gold, but you know what? Expect the unexpected was the title of the the show last week. Was expect the unexpected, and the charts went as expected. So I don't want to jinx myself that way. Either way, though, pretty happy with last week's prediction on gold. You can see it in blue right there. The main path was followed almost to a T. So this is what we do at Algo Factory. We teach people how to, first of all, understand which way the market is going, which way the wind is blowing. That's going to help you have a bias. We also teach you to use technical analysis and build algorithms to teach you where price may end up at a certain point. And if you can predict price movement to a statistical degree of accuracy, then you can extract money from these markets on a regular basis. If you want to know more how to do that, go ahead and click on the link in the description to get your free algo right there. Click on that link, give us a real name, fake name, we don't care. We'll send you an algo immediately. We will be live and direct tomorrow morning, Tuesday, September the 9th, 8:30 a.m. EST as regularly scheduled. It's going to be an exciting week. Both the data on Wednesday and Thursday come out as we open our show. Therefore, Wednesday and Thursday, I might start a little bit early so we can see what it does to the charts as it does it. Thank you all for watching. Get your free algo, like, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of stuff, and we will see you Tuesday morning early. Thanks for watching.